Thank God he didn't bleh. Jesus Christ. What's up, you chicken tenders of the internet? Mark with Cardivox Academy here, and today we're checking out Chelsea Grin. We checked out Chelsea Grin a couple months ago, but we're going to do it again. Number one, because I want to, and number two, because apparently the song is pretty cool. I've been told it's got more of a death metal vibe than a deathcore vibe. Interesting to hear. We'll see if I agree. I'm not the authority on this or anything, but we'll see if I agree. And it's gonna be fun. I like talking about Tom Barber. I like talking about his voice. And I like I like doing metal vocals, so it's all going to work out for you. Now, if you're new to the channel, my name is Mark. I am a metal vocalist myself. I'm in a band called Kardashev. I've been doing metal vocals for about 14 years. We released an album on Metal Blade back in June. Pretty cool stuff. And also, I am a full-time vocal coach. 99% of my students, I'm teaching how to make, all sorts of types of noises safely and efficiently. And it's a lot of fun. That's what I do. That's what I do for a living. I teach people how to do vocals. And here on the channel, what we do is we take the reaction format, we break it down, we have a lot of fun. I make these as educational as possible, where I'll tell you what the vocalist is doing, or if I'm not sure, or if I would have a different way of approaching it, I'll tell you how I would do it. So like, share, and subscribe if you enjoy the content. If you really enjoy the content, check us out on Patreon. Our Discord server is accessible via Patreon, and we have listening parties every Friday night, karaoke events twice a month. And it's just a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. It's a cool place to be with cool people to hang out with. Now, this beginning is pretty exciting because I don't know if you know, I never wear shirts with designs, but right now I am wearing a very cool Cardivox Academy t-shirt. So we're going to put the graphic up on the screen here, but that's right. Cardivox Academy has merchandise now. This design, you can see the Vox trifecta design. You can see the vocalist as a sorceress in the center of the design. She's casting the spell of vocalization, and you can see her spell circle is made up of 3 ritual ingredients: breath support, resonance, and phonation. So if you want to have some magical screams, you can check this one out. This design is another one of my favorites. Its artwork is by the amazing Carl E. And as you can see, the vocalist is finding her voice in a hidden chest out in the woods in a field. She's opening the chest, finding a microphone, because that's the whole point, right? We all want to find our own voice. And this shirt really exemplifies that really well. And then this shirt is pretty cool. It's got the retro 80s thing that we were doing for a while. This shirt's kind of a funky story because you can see me on the right, sort of drawn as sort of like a Conan character. It looks almost as good as I do. And then on the right, I believe it is, we've got my business partner in a character that we had drawn up that we haven't had a chance to use yet, but we are going to use soon. So if you want to be in before that design, but people are like, who is that amazing looking character? Well, you'll be the first one to have it. We also have tumblers. Check this out. Back to me, back to the camera. Boom. This is just one design. We've got a couple designs. I don't know if they're all on the website yet, but we've got tumblers. I've drank out of this thing many times. It holds liquids. I'm not going to tell you it tastes better or does anything magical, but it's got a cool texture, and that's neat. And then finally, we have wall flags. This wall flag is pretty cool. In fact, let me cut to it here real quick. Neat. That wall flag is in memoriam of our team member who passed away, the chair. It has the sword. If you know, you know. There are videos scattered across the channel of me destroying that chair with a broadsword. And the chair didn't make it. The chair met its final end. I believe it was in a Fit for an Autopsy video, but I could be wrong about that. Anyways, it's a lot of fun. You'll see sometimes people in the comments saying, you got to bring out the sword for this one. So I got to find something else to destroy. And there's no way I'm destroying my secret lab chair. That one's staying intact. But anyways, head over to cardivoxacademy.com to learn about our merchandise. We have very cool stuff there. We'll be putting up more designs soon. And also, if you want to learn about vocal lessons with me, how to sound super cool in a super safe way, that's the best place to do it, cardivoxacademy.com. So I appreciate all of y'all's patience with the longer intro. But let's go ahead. Let's talk about Chelsea Grin, Crystal Casket. Y'all know that I'm sleepy these days because of a newborn, and that's making me have some spicier takes. So I don't know. Oh, I paused right at a pretty good vocal. Okay, we'll go back a little bit. So first and foremost, this song is the first 44 seconds, 40-second marker. If you know, you know. We're in the 40-second bracket. The song is dope. I'm loving the more death metal. Yeah, I'm hearing that. Okay, maybe it's just my mind being influenced by what I've been told. But I'm loving the more influence on death metal versus deathcore. I do think that we're in a place where deathcore is getting a little samey. Now, that's not a jab at deathcore as a genre. I think deathcore is a really cool genre with a lot of to offer, especially in vocal talent. But I feel like currently, starting to all be pretty similar. Not all, much of it is starting to be pretty similar. And so when bands such as like Shadow of Intent move out of the genre a little bit, bringing in some other elements, or, Chelsea Grin bringing in some death metal here, I think it's cool. I think it's refreshing, especially when they keep some of that deathcore influence. We'll see if that's here. So two really cool vocal styles here. And this is kind of a hallmark of now we're getting a little bit out of the deathcore realm. None of these things are hard and fast. None of this is black and white. We're talking about trends more than like hard facts. But in deathcore, we have a lot of like vocal acrobatics. Here I've heard, well, 3, I guess technically, but up until here I've heard 2 vocal styles. And shout out to good old Tom Barber here for starting very old school. Very old school, matches the sound, right? We've got the death metal sound, and then we've got a very loose, very breathy false chord vocal. Like, kind of, this is not a vocal that I have used in a very long time. So, hey, yeah, it's just like your bass line. Hey, my, he sounds like he's got it a little bit higher placed, so it's less less chesty, maybe a little bit more masky. Hey, my, somewhere there. But yeah, he's definitely got this like very loose, very relaxed, very breathy, airy false chord sound. And it's a cool sound. You heard it a lot more in the early 10s. And then in death metal, going back crazy, long periods of time. But it's very cool. Sort of a tubular mouth. Then we hear the high vocals come in, wide open embouchure, right? Really exemplifying those bright frequencies. Letting those harmonics shine through, right? And we have that movement here from. That's one of the main things, actually, that you can focus on if you're trying to, and I talk about this a lot because it's fundamental and very helpful. If you're trying to sort of explore high vocals, change your embouchure, change your the shape of your oral cavity, right? The mouth, change that before distortion, because you can get a lot of longevity just from working with your articulators and moving around in your resonance space. And then that's less work that you have to, offload onto the distortion itself. So if you're comfortable, in that false chord space, you can open up. A lot of that helped me transform the scream. There was a little bit of a distortion shift as far as placement's concerned, but it's a really easy way to get started. In one of my videos, I don't remember which, I talked about saying wow. It's an old school exercise. Wow. Really helps people unlock high screams. And you can hear it's really loose, really relaxed. It's not a scream that gets used a lot anymore, but it's cool to hear it here. I'm going to go back about 10 seconds because I want to hear the vocals that come in. Cool stuff so far. Love the opening riff. Very cool. Song hits. Jesus. A lot of the time on the channel I cover music that like I wouldn't necessarily listen to myself, but it's very easy to find things to be excited about. That's the kind of guy I am. If I'm at a restaurant that it's not really like the kind of food that I would eat, I can find something to feel positively about to make the best of the situation. And that does happen when I'm doing these reaction videos. I can be excited and really love to talk about vocal technique. But if somebody was to say, hey, Mark, do you like that song? I'd be like, oh, definitely not. I think sometimes people have the illusion that I like every song I cover, and that is not the case. This song, though, is a banger. This song is sick. I love the sludgy, down-tempo, aggressive action of it. Now we've gotten a little bit more into the deathcore world, right? And that transition was really smooth. It was really smooth in its abruptness. Now, one of the things I want to talk about Tom, and one of my favorite things, I mentioned this in any video I talk about his voice, I'm going to mention this because I think it's one of his defining characteristics, and one of the reasons why I think of him as being pretty S tier as far as metal vocalists are concerned. It's how he takes his gutturals and like he takes the sound of a guttural and gives it the treatment of a mid, and that gives it this very slow, very thin, very clicky sound. Now I've played around with this sound myself. I don't use it as much as he does, so I'm not gonna make it hit the same way he does. But what I've done to kind of play around with it, and an easy way to, well, maybe not easy, but a way to go about this is to get that nice, comfortable low. A lot of people put this under the false chord category. What's happening is your supraglottal tissues are closing in very slightly, so we're actually activating something now versus just the relaxed false chord. Now we're getting a little bit of that, a little bit of that clicky activation. What I like to do is I like to lean against it a little bit, keep a little bit of that closure, right? And again, I'm not saying I could go toe to toe on this sound with him. This is his specialty, but I take it and I kind of open my mouth and I talk out the side a little bit. Well, let me find it. Kind of like in the same realm, but he has this really cool voicing underneath it. Like you can almost hear like a clean tone underneath that's really cool. That's really neat. And it layers really well. You can hear him putting all those layers. So again, we can talk about our mouth shape, right? We can find a vocal that way, and you don't have to do the same thing the vocalist is doing. You can find something that's comfortable for you and just play around with open, close, wide and tall, right? Really cool. Let's keep going though. You know, I hear a little bit of that tonality under his high vocals as well. And it sounds really neat. It's got kind of a shrieky, kind of like a going on underneath it. You do that alone. It sounds kind of silly, but it sounds really neat when he does it. Everything about his vocals, I would say, is very like, it's funny because we're talking about a harsh vocal technique, but everything about his vocal is like clean. It sounds very clean. One thing I want to point out that he's doing very well is, so this song is now, I usually talk about just vocals, and I'm gonna bring this back to vocals, but I want to talk about the song composition a little bit. Songs like this can be ruined by their vocalists. Hear me out, because what we have here is, it's not like, this song is definitely dynamic. There's a lot of skill and talent in the composition of this song. I couldn't write guitar riffs like this, right? Well, I don't play guitar, but there's a lot of creativity here. But and along with that, it's very dum dum da 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 dum, right? Bum bum. It's very head bobby, right? We've got a very definite time that we can bob our head to. And one of the worst things a vocalist can do, this is just my opinion, one of the worst things, feel free to fight me in the comments below, that a vocalist can do is just be on time. Then they did this and they did that. Here's the vocal here. It makes the song sound like a nursery rhyme, even though it's metal. Whoa. And like, he's hopping, he's skipping, he's throwing in like triplets, and he's very much dancing around the music with his voice. He's doing those barky right? He's on beat, but he's kind of in the pocket, so to speak. And I like the way he's making it dynamic. This is a little bit of an aside, but oftentimes I talk about mouth shape, resonance placement, but I want to talk about just some basic distortion generation, because I feel like it's been a while. I feel like in the past like 4 or 5 videos I've talked about, I don't want to use the word advanced because that sounds kind of up my own ass, but things that are peripheral to starting your distortion. So I want to talk about a couple ways that you can do that. And let's focus on that low distortion, right? Now, generally speaking, a baseline false chord, because that's what we're hearing here, a baseline false chord, 9 times out of 10 students overcomplicate it. 9 times out of 10 students overcomplicate it. If you can grunt, or if you can like clear your throat, which you got to be careful clearing your throat. It is a really useful way to like find our false chord distortion, but clearing the throat, you know, those glottal like motions, the heart attacks, right? Those can be pretty tiring. So if you're going to use the throat clear, you want to do it sparingly. But if you can grunt or you can clear your throat, you can false chord. You may not necessarily know how to find your way there, and that's where I help. But I guarantee you can do it. Right? Now, to get past that point, right? Because like I said, it's not a sound, although he's using it here amazingly. It's not a sound that a lot of people consider super modern anymore, which is a little genre centric, in my opinion. But whatever. There are a lot of explanations as to how we can do this. I have found that the easiest way to explain it to students and for students to yield results is to talk about, you should feel a slight squeeze in the back of the tongue. Gentle. Chances are you're out there and you're going to do it like 90% more than you actually need to. But I'm here. Ha, ha. Some people might talk about this as a sort of sensation of swallowing the vocal. I find that tends to make students pull their tongues back a little too far. So I like to talk about just feeling like the tongue is flexing, right? The back of the tongue specifically. Ha, 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 ha. Now, it's one thing for your metal vocal to sound right. You need it to feel right. So if you feel like you're the larynx itself, right? The glottis, the vocal folds here should still feel relaxed. The tongue and the glottis can move independently, right? Ha. While you do this, your supraglottal tissues are also closing in, but you have a little less sensation of that, a lot less sensation of that. So if I'm here, ha, 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 if I just try to false chord through that, it's going to feel a little shaky. It's going to feel a little janky. But if I try to false chord through that, the distortion is going to change naturally because of the way that the tissues are positioned, right? And you can find laryngoscopies of this on the internet. If you just type in metal vocal laryngoscopy, you'll find plenty of them. The Will Ramos one is not going to show you this because he's doing some wild stuff, very cool stuff, but he's doing some wild stuff that chances are your larynx can't do that. Chances are. And it'll sound like this. So here's ah, ha, 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 ha. Old school, right? Ah, ha, 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 ha. So it sounds like I'm doing something crazy, but I am just attempting a false chord with the back of my tongue slightly squeezed. And the cool thing about that is you can give it a little extra gas once you feel comfortable here. Make all sorts of cool sounds. Now for a high vocal, this is just one way to go about it. For a high vocal, you can take that same grunt, but you can think about starting here. I will say I find that this is pretty difficult for lots of really beginning students to kind of wrap their head around. And oftentimes in a lesson, we'll do exercises talking about registers. So we'll talk about head voice, chest voice. We might even play around with a mixed voice in their singing, like clean singing, just to kind of get them to understand how their voice can be placed and built differently, and then how the shape of the vocal tract that is required to get into those registers changes the distortion, right? Because there's a strong relationship between the shape of your vocal tract and the way that the distortion is going to behave, right? So if I'm here, again, this is relaxed. This is feeling a little bit closed. Tongue is up. Soft palate is raised, but we can also lower the soft palate. And if I try to false chord through there, it's not going to be super high. If you're trying highs, don't try to go for the highest one. Go for like a high mid. It's not too impressive, but that is how you get to. And that's a sound that many people enjoy, right? As far as high vocals, not me specifically. But anyway, so that was a little bit of an aside for a little mini vocal lesson. I have a lesson in 20 minutes, so I gotta push play. But thankfully, the song is short. So far, though, love it. Let's go. Thank God he didn't blah. Jesus Christ. Tom, good choice. Everybody else would have, and maybe even I would have. Blah, blah, at that moment, and you didn't, and I appreciate you as an artist for that. Reserving it for when it matters. What a fucking Chad. That was a sick outro. That was awesome. So there are two things here that I think are a good example of subverting expectations in order to deliver something great later. First and foremost, that blah, my brain, just from being conditioned to listening to other music, thought it should have happened like 4 times, and then 4 is arbitrary. And then on that 5th time or 3rd or whatever, that's when he hit it. And it was like this really thin, constricted in the top, not down by the throat, the top, this like really constricted, kind of voicey, sounded like it had a lot of Fry influence in there. And it was amazing. It was very pulled. And then there's this pause. I don't remember where it is. There's this pause because the guitars are going dump, dump, da 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 dump. And then there's this empty pause, and all we hear, again, I'm hearing this for the first time, so cut me some slack if I get some things wrong. But all we hear is just the tail, the Efterklang of all the other, I probably used that word wrong, of all the other instruments. And our brain is expecting that bump, but it doesn't happen. I want to find it. That was very cool. Let's go here. Yeah, you hear what I'm saying? Very cool. That's sick. That song was refreshingly, well, I don't like saying music's good because, like, I don't know. I'm no fun because I think 99% of art is arbitrary. And so when people get up in tizzies about art being good or bad, I usually just check out because nobody can prove it. But I will say that song was refreshingly entertaining and enjoyable for my tastes as they are in this moment today. A lot of cool vocal work. Because the song was a little bit less acrobatic, there were more moments for me to, listen along and enjoy. That high bled that he did, I want to hear that one more time because I feel like there's some stuff we could talk about there. Let me find it real quick. Yeah, that's sick. God, that sounds so cool. Yeah, we're definitely in that sort of like baby cry space. I'm not going to attempt it right now. Because I kind of just need to sit with it for a little bit. I just need to sit with it a little bit to kind of, I don't know, do that sound myself. That's not a sound I've ever done. I've never done that sound in my life before. So I would have to kind of find my way around it. And that's part of the fun. Like, I really appreciate when I hear a song and it's like, now it makes me feel young again. to like, now I want to like run to the other room and like pace around in circles finding new noises like I used to do. That's really cool. It's really thin. It's really tight above the vocal folds. The vocal folds themselves are relaxed, but it's tight up in that pharyngeal space, and there's that high pitched noise to it. It sounds like we're getting some soft palate rattle on that. Sounds like we're getting some soft palate rattle. Maybe. I don't know. Point is, this was a very good song. This song was sick. And just to kind of pull things, put things together. Number one, if you're listening to this song, there are a lot of really good fundamentals here for you to be inspired by. And if you want to do metal vocals, you can do metal vocals. It's just all about having the proper expectations, taking your time, and listening to your body, right? Your body's going to be a very good indicator for if a vocal is being done properly, because it may sound sick, but if it's painful, you're on the wrong track. If you want to take a lot of inspiration from this song, which is very heavily false chord influenced, I'm not the kind of vocal coach who's going to try to reinvent the wheel or tell you I have some like secret teaching technique I found, from a crypt in Tibet. You know what I mean? The tried and true vocals, the tried and true exercises really do work when communicated in a way that the student understands and in a way that is built for them, right? So these, if you are trying to do a false chord, that's the best place to start 99% of the time. When you can get to the point that that's comfortable and controlled, then you can start leaning on it and thinking about that forward masky resonance. Still doesn't sound quite right yet, but we're getting there, right? Then you can think about adding a little bit more abdominal pressure, and then you can think about projecting up and forward. At this point, if you're having trouble, it may be a good time to continue practicing your false chords, but step over to the side and practice just singing some nice scales in a connected voice. Or slides. You don't even have to do a scale, just a slide. Hey. That same positioning, that same movement and support is going to be what influences a lot of you getting from here to here. Right? It's a long road, but you can do it. I'm just kind of rambling at this point because the song was good. Listen, I appreciate all of you very much. I appreciate you watching these videos. I appreciate you having patience while I am still sleepy and delirious. But check us out on Patreon. Grab a shirt if you want one. And as always, many thanks, much love. I'm out.